Hey friend, welcome to the Badass is the New Black podcast, where our motto is done is better than perfect. I'm Krissy Chin, here on a mission to help you take your knowledge and turn it into a profit. I'm an expert in course creation and membership offers that create reoccurring revenue so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more. Most importantly, I'm a laid-back wife, mom, a friend who started as a peds nurse, turned network marketer, and now a serial entrepreneur. This podcast is for ambitious people with an idea, a vision, but no idea how to get there. On this podcast, I'll give actionable steps to keep you moving forward while you learn new business strategies, better systems and process, marketing, sales, all the things that you need to build and scale a blissful business that keeps your pocketbook growing. Grab a beverage, open up your notes app, and let's get to it. Let's welcome Alexandra Ramirez. She's the owner and founder of the Freedom Ad Agency, dedicated to helping coaches scale their businesses and create freedom through Facebook and Instagram ads. Today, we're going to talk about flipping the traditional webinar up on its head, doing things a little bit differently to increase your results and create a fun experience. Alexandra, I'm super excited that you're here to talk about this topic.
I'm super excited to be here and talk to you guys all about ads, because I know every single person that's listening is just the master at ads. So it's just great to talk about it.
Right, exactly.
There's no scared people about ads, right? Nobody's listening to this being scared.
Never. Ads, I tried to run ads, my sister and I did, for our other business, Grow Workspace, and I was too overwhelmed. I was like, we just need to hire someone. It's like, I'm in. So I was like, we have someone that runs our ads. So I've learned a lot through that experience of running them for our own business, but I'm definitely like, all right, let's leave it to the professionals. And I think we're going to get into some ad tips kind of after we talk about this webinar, because you have to promote something to run ads, right? So we need to get that right first.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that they just start running ads to practically nothing. And trust me, back in like 5-6 years ago, that would have been perfectly fine for you to run an ad to like a simple post or something. But nowadays we have to be super strategic in the way that we do ads. So we'll definitely talk about that, like, for sure. Webinars, challenges, they're super important to get people into.
Okay. So before we dive into kind of this, starting with the webinar, and then we'll kind of lead into ads a bit here, I want to know a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get into really focusing on this being your niche?
Yeah. So let's like rewind for a second here. So my husband, Joe, he was in the Air Force for 7-8 years, something like that. And he ended up getting blood clots in his arms, and he actually has one next to his heart. He has blood clots all around his body. And we figured out that he was diagnosed with 3 lupus and then 2 other blood disorders, which cause the blood clots in his body. And so what that meant for him was to get medically retired out of the Air Force. Even though he still makes some money, I knew that I needed to do something, whether that was to get a regular job, or if that was to go back to school and then get a job, or if that was to do something else entirely. Because at that time, actually, I was a network marketer. I was in the Beachbody system, which is wonderful, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me at that time frame, or anywhere from that kind. It just wasn't for me. But I eventually left that. And then I started doing like VA work on like Fiverr a little bit. And then I went over to working with top coaches in the Beachbody area, because I knew some of them. And so I contacted them, and I knew that they, needed some type of admin work of some kind. And so I just kind of wanted to dip my toes in that. And so I started with that. Then I moved on to working with actual like coaches, like, like business coaches, stuff like, life coaches, everything like that. Started working with them, and what they tend to do, obviously, is launching, their courses and everything like that. So I was part of that process for a while, started doing opt-ins, started doing funnels, started doing full-on launches with my clients. And then, when you start to do that as a virtual assistant, you start to do other stuff on top of that. So that included Facebook ads. And then once that kind of started going, then I became a consultant for a lot of my clients in terms of Facebook ads. And then recently, in the beginning of 2020, I decided to open up an actual done for you advertising agency, which is the Freedom Ad Agency. Well, now it is. And it's been amazing ever since. So
what I love about your journey is that it's kind of this long step-by-step journey. Like you did one thing and then you just kind of went with it, and then the doors opened for something else and you explored that, and like here you are now. So I think a lot of people sometimes get discouraged because they're like, oh, I can't figure it out. Like I'm doing this thing, but it doesn't feel like what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, just keep doing it. Like with action comes clarity. And that's been my kind of journey as well. Like we both have a network marketing background, and then just kind of like opened our eyes to other things and kind of just said yes to the opportunity. So I'm always encouraging people to do that. And so I love that that's your story. Just one more example. Like it's not just me, guys. Like Alexandra has the same, story to just kind of like, okay, and now I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to try this. And like, okay, now this feels super aligned. And everything that you did before prepared you for what you are doing now, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, Beachbody prepared me for, running some kind of business of some kind. And then that moved me, into my virtual assistant business, and then, started doing ads. I was like, oh, this is kind of fun and exciting. Let me start doing consulting work on this. And it was literally just a step-by-step on, what felt good for me in that moment. And trust me, it was scary every leap that I took. But I eventually just decided that, if I wanted to actually create freedom for myself, and to not just financial freedom, but also time freedom, that I would need to start doing other things other than just virtual assistant work.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that you said it was scary every step of the way, because I also think that that's super relatable. Like, oh, like they look like they have it all together and they're now like running a successful business. Right. But deep down inside, behind the scenes, you guys, this office is a mess. And, like we are just kind of like, searching our way through just like you are. So I appreciate you being.
I can even tell you guys, I've worked with a lot of 7 to 8 figure coaches in the industry and network marketers. I can't tell you how many of them have the same limiting beliefs that you do.
Yeah.
The people who are listening, literally almost the same exact limiting beliefs that you do. It's just a matter of they actually took action about something. That's it.
Right. So that I was just going to ask, what are your words of advice for someone who is kind of like, okay, I know like there's still more for me. Like I have a purpose. I just know it. I'm not there quite yet, but I'm really working towards it, but I'm scared, you know what?
Yeah. It's scary to make those mistakes. Right. And I think that so many people are scared that if they took the next leap, whatever that is, if that's to get into another niche, if that is to start a business new, to create a product, or whatever it ends up being, we get so scared in that space of what if this fails? Mm-hmm. That's scary. That's really scary to think that what if this fails? Well, what's the worst that can happen if it fails? Okay, maybe you lose a couple of clients, or, maybe your income drops a little bit. Okay, that's when you shift back to whatever you want to do, or you can change to something else. So you got to let go of those fears, because they're really just holding you back from anything, and just take that leap. I don't like to call it a leap of faith, because you could fail. Like, don't get me wrong, you could fail, but it's okay if you fail, because that's a mistake that happened. And you just get your butt back up and you just go to it. You do the next thing. I mean, I fail all the time in my business. And I think every business owner fails in their business. It's what you do after you fail that's important.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So for the people out there that have bombed and failed on a webinar, let's give them some tips. So, so you talk about this kind of like reinventing the webinar. What are the first steps to reinventing a webinar?
Okay. Let's talk about first what we've learned as far as how to create webinars, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're taught, or what we've been taught on how to create a webinar that sells, is very much a bro marketing tactic, strategy, whatever you want to call it, that was taught for many, 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 many years. Okay. Some people did it with a conference, like a full-on, summit conference, for example, like, what's his name? Tony Robbins. And it goes all the way back. We have these presentations, right? And the way that you normally do them is, gosh, or let's pull this out. Like you're in the right place if like you really want to get into the pain points of the person. You want to tell them the shifts that they need to make in order for them to do this and this, or like the 3 secrets to blah, 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 or the 3 steps to blah, 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 right? So we're taught a certain way on how to create a webinar that quote unquote sells, right? And converts actual strangers into clients. But we're in 2021, okay? And if you're listening to this a year later or 5 years later, it doesn't matter. We are changing the way that we do marketing so many times, especially because we are in a pandemic right now. And we're just starting to get back to, not even getting back to normal at this point. But we're out of the lockdowns. But I feel like nowadays people are craving connection more than anything. And that wasn't really the case a couple of years ago or, before then. You could easily have an automated webinar that just was the same thing that you recorded for last time's webinar, and it still sells. Nowadays, I know that many automated webinars are struggling. And the reasoning behind that is because people want connection and they want to be able to have that know, like, trust factor with you before they could become a paid client. Okay. And this also happens with a lot of women too. So if you're marketing towards women, it's different from when you market towards, men. It's just totally 2 different ways. And so a lot of my clients normally like to go they like their ideal client avatar is mostly, women of some kind, right? And so when you're trying to sell on a webinar, in order to create a know, like, trust factor, whether that's a live webinar or if it's a automated webinar, the first thing that you need to do is to create an experience. What is it like to work with you? What is it? What is it like to work with you? That's what people want to know. Because I'll tell you right now, they see the same exact title webinar on their Facebook ads or like in their newsfeed of some kind on Instagram or on Facebook, whatever it is, wherever you're posting about your webinar, they see the same thing over and over and over again. So in order to make yours different on why they should work with you versus the 20 other people that have the same niche, which is fine. I'm not telling you to change your niche. I just need you to create that experience of what it's like to work with you, because how you're going to get people to buy from you is by showcasing yourself. You're selling yourself. That's what you are. That's what you're doing inside of a webinar. So let me give you a quick example of how this kind of looks, of how to create that experience, right? Well, think back into what do you want to be known for, and what do you want your ideal client to see through you? So again, an actual example that I'm going to give you though here is I have a client who's amazing, who has a webinar, and at one point we were trying to sell her signature course, and when we were trying to sell it, we were trying to figure out like what we're going to do for the webinar. What are we going to do? So we tried different things, the same types of webinar titles that we're known for, right? I think it was like 3 steps to something, that type of thing. Sure. And this is when I started to figure out, okay, we need to make a shift into, something else here. And so when we started doing that webinar did not work, by the way, at least not the way we wanted to. But then when I was talking to her, I was like, we got to brainstorm this. So then I started thinking, I was like, you're super good at writing posts that sell, like your high ticket packages. Why don't you have a webinar that showcases to the consumer step by step on how to write a post that sells a high ticket package? Walk them through that process. You're not giving them any secrets that are inside your course. You're not giving them the inside secrets over there. You're not telling them the exact step-by-step process of the exact things that your course talks about. So walk them through of what it's like to work with you. And that's by showing them, how to write a post that sells. And what does this do, right? One thing it does, especially, is to really help someone, the consumer that's coming to watch your webinar. It helps them to know, like, and trust you. But on top of that, let's say somebody wrote that post, they posted it, they made a sale, or they got a couple of people in DMs. What does that do for the psyche? That tells them, oh my gosh, I just got a sale. I want to get more of these. Let me go buy her course because now she's going to teach me how to do more of these types of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And I assume that was a great lead into what her course was all about in terms of attracting the perfect item.
Well, she already had her course beforehand there. It was already evergreened as far as the course, but we were just wanting to figure out, how do we evergreen the webinar part to get sales all the time passively? Mm-hmm. So that's why we wanted to create that experience of thing. Because I would say the old way of doing the webinar can still work in a live setting, but when you automate it, no.
So she was or was not automating, or did she ever automate her webinar?
Yep, it's still available now.
So I think kind of like what I'm hearing there is really, even if, like, the main thing of a webinar these days is you have to give people those quick wins. You have to really cause someone to be able to get results. So if they're not purchasing by the end of your webinar when you do the pitch, which is the traditional way of doing it, then when they actually put that into motion and do the action of whatever you taught them and gave them that experience through the webinar, when they see the results, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, have to go back and grab more from Alexandra. Have to go, Stephanie helped me so much. Like, I have to go back to it. And so is that kind of how it works?
And you don't have to give them any tangible result. Like, you don't have to give them actual, like, money, for example. You don't have to give them that type of result. You can, for example, I have another client who has a webinar that we're kind of like talking about here, which is creating experience. But the way that she did it was that she audits them through the webinar and asks them questions. So even though it's an automated webinar, she's asking them questions throughout the video to be like, putting them in their notebook and journaling that information out. So she's really auditing on why I think it's like stuck at six figures. Why are they stuck at six figures in their business? And so she'll walk them through and asking them questions so they can audit themselves. So she's not actually auditing them. She's, walking them through and how to audit themselves. And then they can be like, at the end of the webinar, oh my gosh, yes, this is why I'm stuck at six figures. I need to book a call with this person, or I need to buy this course because it's, she already kind of helped me out to figure out why I'm stuck. So it doesn't have to actually be like an actual result of getting clients or whatever. It could easily just be something along the lines of, figuring out what's wrong.
Getting that moment of clarity. Light bulb. No, I love it. And I think both of these kind of remind me of like workshop style versus just talking head webinar. And even like, that's also what I'm teaching more inside Scale to Six, the community in there, is that people are really liking workshops where they can come attend, they can actually do something. By the end of it, they've gotten clarity on why they're stuck, or they have clarity on the next steps, or you've worked them through that process of creating a post. And by the end, they can actually write a post that's effective. So like having it more of a workshop style, I think is really popular right now. Right. And like everything happens on trends. So like that's the trend. And like you might have to shift your webinar down the road, but that's fine if it works for a period of time. Like that's what matters right now. Right. Not everything is going to work forever because times change and we have to innovate and be creative and all of that. So 100%. I love that.
Yeah. And I would even say that it's super important for you guys that when you do a webinar, that you are making sure that you're thinking about the consumer at the end of the day. Stop thinking about you for a second, because we tend to always go back to ourselves, right? And like, all that kind of information, but really thinking about the consumer, it could also make a difference in that as well, because you could do so many things on everything. And if you really think about it too, it's like so many people know what the next steps of what they need to do in their business. So like if you're a business coach, for example, or let's say like you're a fitness coach of some kind, right? If they know that they want to lose weight, and they probably already know that they need to eat healthier and that they need to do XX next. Like everybody knows the steps to that. However, they want to know with whoever they're going to work with is going to actually help them. So create that experience so that they know, like, and trust you to that manner.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So what are your tips, or what's your process for getting someone, this is going to be like the secret sauce, right? The process to getting someone to come up with their idea for their webinar, because I think people are like, sure, this is great. Okay. That sounds amazing. Shoot. Now what do I do next to figure out what's going to be that for me? So do you have like a question or like something where that really helps people kind of like get to that endpoint of like, okay, this is the webinar that I'm going to do?
Yeah. I would say, think back to two things. One, what do you want to be known for is the first question you need to be asking yourself. What do you want to be known for in terms of your business? I mean, when people say, Krissy, what is that? What do you want that one thing that you're going to be known for on helping somebody with? The second thing is to, if you don't exactly know what you want to be known for, think back to what your clients have said about you. What has come up. So for example, like I am known for making Facebook ads very simple, right? And so I have to, if I was to create a webinar, I have to showcase that. I'm going to showcase simplicity. I'm going to showcase being, having a 5-day challenge or whatever, or a webinar that like really confuses somebody. And like, I'm showing them the back of the ads manager and how to set up the iOS 14 update stuff. Like that's way too confusing for someone. So I'd rather just showcase the best parts of us working together. And then you can be like, yeah, like she made it feel super simple and I'm excited to work with her. And then you sign up to work with me, that type of thing. So you think back to those two things. What do you want to be known for? Or what do people say about you? And then that can really help in terms of what you should be creating, for the experience. But at the end of the day, you have to think about, how can I showcase what it's like to work with me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the reality is that a webinar, a workshop, it's all a lead magnet.
Yes.
So I love to think of it also, you have your product that someone's going to buy. So if you're in network marketing, that's your product through your network marketing company. If you're a coach, it could be your coaching program. If you're, a coach creator, course creator, it's that course that you're selling or that membership that you're selling. So thinking about, it
could be a call if you wanted it to.
Right. So thinking about what's going to get that person to take action on that is like, give them the very first step, the step that like preps them for that next thing, whether it's to book a sales call or to jump in on, your course, or to go through the funnel to buy your product or buy your product at the end. What is that first quick win that they need? And again, I think like keeping this idea in the back of your mind, that also gives them that experience of working with you, what it will be like moving forward, is really key to kind of help you get to that point of, okay, this is what I should talk about, teach about, move them through that process can be helpful as well.
I can even give you some quick examples too. So I give you 2 already, but another example is I will be doing a challenge, I think next month, and it's probably going to be around on how to create a course and to pre-sell it. So it's going to be, it's not a webinar, but it is the same kind of concept, because you can always take a challenge and move it into a webinar. You can always change a webinar into a challenge. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's a freebie. You're just trying to get that trust factor and create that experience. And so it's going to be like a 5-day workshop in which I'm teaching them how to create a course and how to pre-sell it. Because what I'm trying to do is I have a group program called Limitless Clients, in which it helps people on how to sell, like how to scale your online course and get limitless like coaching clients. That's what the basis of it is. And so I want to be able to get people into that group program that already have a course. But what about the people who don't already have courses? I want to get those people too. So if I can help them create a course within 5 days and pre-sell it, boom, bam, then I can move them to the next step, you know? And if they pre-sold a few spots because of what I taught them, that's automatically going to tell them that they should probably buy Limitless Clients, the group program, you know? So that's just another quick example, you know, as far as what you can do for your freebie of some kind, whether that's a webinar or whatever, and be able to create that experience.
Right. Exactly. You're prepping them, getting them prepared for, and to kind of like be at that next stage for the next thing.
Yep.
I love it. Do you have any clients that are, we talk about B2B a lot, so business to business. And I think that's like it feels really easy because other business people are willing to invest. Do you have any clients or examples that are B2C? So someone who, you know, like health coaches, I think that's kind of a big one. Any examples that you could share on that?
Yeah, so I have a couple of holistic coaching clients of mine. One that I think last year we worked with, and she had like 160K launch, which was super cool. And yeah, so the way that she created her experience, I don't think she did a webinar. I think she did do a webinar. But the way that she basically did it was that she walked them through of what it looks like inside of her program. You know, it didn't even have to be a full-on like outline type of thing. If you're the type of person that likes to just rant through things, like that client of mine, you know, she does that great. She loves to just like rant on whatever questions people might have. And so, yeah, so definitely we've worked with multiple, you know, B2C, but also B2B. B2B is, you know, super easy for us. And of course, they're easy to kind of, you know, get results for. But yeah, B2C is also amazing. I think it's just, you have to do the same thing and creating that experience of what it's like to work with you. If they were to join your program, what would that be like? Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's it.
Yeah, I had a private client. I've talked about Linda before. So if you guys have been listening to the episode, you probably heard about Linda from Breath Body Connection, but she, you know, B2C, working on breath and movement to, you know, decrease anxiety, build better relationships with people. And she did a challenge. We worked on creating that together. So she came up with a 5-day breath challenge. And then by the end of that challenge, it was very, you know, she was very present, and they did live calls through this 5 days. And she had resources for them. And then at the end pitched her course, which was also not just a standalone course. She did have like, I think it was weekly sessions with them. So continued that, the ability for them to connect with her more. And I can't remember what her conversion numbers are, but I was like, look, when we look at this is above industry standard in terms of like your conversion from the people that went through this program with you and ended up, or through the challenge and ended up signing up for your course and your program. So, you know, that's just another good example of, yeah, taking that first step, giving them that quick win in whatever, if it's a 5-day challenge or a 3-day challenge or an hour
webinar,
session,
whatever.
Right. Workshop session. And so that they can see this is what it's like. And yes, I want to move forward, especially if you're using ads, because you're bringing in cold traffic. They don't know you. So video is great to build that know, like, and trust much quicker. Should we transition into ads? I think that's kind of a good segue.
Sure. Yeah.
I really just want to cover, because before we hit the record button, we were talking about things that don't work in ads. And I was like, okay, I know this isn't like, you know, ads episode, but let's just hit on this a little bit before we end. So,
well, because if you have a freebie, whether that's like a challenge or a webinar, you're eventually going to have to move into ads eventually. So, you know, talking about ads is something that I love talking about. So let's do it.
Well, let's do it. All right. So I know we've run into this issue before in terms of you put up an ad, you're like, this is going to be amazing. And then Facebook is like, not approved. You're like, what? So let's give them some quick little things when you're writing your ads. Like, what is Facebook going to be like? That's a no-no.
Okay. Well, let me say this first. This is a quick disclaimer for everybody listening. Whether you are a network marketer, if you are a, you know, business coach or life coach or health coach or whatever you are, right? some type of business owner, no matter what it is, I would say it's like an initiation with Facebook to have a few things happen to you. And that's a rejection of your ads. That's your business manager shutting down. That is your profile getting restricted, and any other disabilization of anything that has to do with ads. Okay, so it's initiation from Facebook. You can always, not always, but there is ways to get it back. There are ways to go around it. Wink, wink. There's ways, but I'm not going to talk about it here. But anyways, that's just a quick disclaimer of, if it happens to you, don't freak out. Not that big of a deal. Like, I've had clients where they've never ran ads before, and then as soon as I click publish on the ads, her entire business manager disabled. And I knew that like the messaging was fine, like everything was great, and I'm a Facebook ads expert, and it still happens to me. We get rejections all the time. So first of all, don't make it a big deal. Look at what you have as far as your copy is concerned, and also your copy on whatever you're sending people into, because those are the two things that the Facebook ad is actually looking at. So big no-nos. It's hard to say because Facebook is never going to actually tell us, hey, like, don't use these words. No, they're never going to do that because then we're always going to find ways to work around it. So they'd rather just not tell us and just say, hey, this is disapproved or this one's good to go. So, but I would say there's some things that I have noticed that whenever I tend to take them out of the copy, that we get approved over the ones that like that messaging stays in. And so some of those is, for example, 9 to 5. So you can't really say something about a job or like something about like having a 9 to 5. So that's something that they really don't like. Another thing too is timelines. So I don't care what it is, whether that you're a business coach and you're talking about income, or if you're a network marketer talking about income, or if you're a health coach talking about weight, whatever it is, you cannot use timelines. So timelines would be considered lose 10 pounds in 10 days, or, make 10K in 10 days or something like that. Like you just can't use that in Facebook ads. So that's something really to notice. But yeah, there's so much. There's a lot that I can literally go through in terms of keywords, but you really just have to think, go to the Facebook policies. They have all of the policies up there. You can kind of notice and see that information as far as what they accept and what they don't accept. And you can look at your copy and see what in there it constitutes as maybe a keyword that could be throwing it off. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the bottom line. There's still some times where I'm like, well, I mean, it looks fine to me, so let me put it in review. And then it comes back saying, no, we still don't like it. So, and even though we have the same ad running right now, this second, but because that one was in, it's weird. Okay, Facebook is weird, but but you have to like go around it as much as possible and try your best to kind of get things approved.
Yeah, and they're changing all the time.
All the time. And especially with what happened with the iOS 14 update, there's a lot of changes that they are making. And the algorithm is changing right now too. So
that's, guys, it's a whole nother episode. We can't talk about it. We're going to be way too long. There's too much. But this was amazing. I think this definitely gives some people some great ideas in terms of, with whatever they're going to be selling, a course, a membership, if they're pitching a call for like a sales call, or, like we'll help you call what turns into a sales call to pitch your program, that you've got some good steps to get started with what is that thing that I'm going to create that's really going to draw people in, that's going to, like you said, give them that experience of what it's going to be like to move forward with me, and then get them at least some kind of result of some kind, whether it's clarity or, like you said, like they're able to do something after, so that they can have that quick win. Remember that you taught them how to do that and showed them how to do that. And they're like, I must go back and get help from whoever it is.
Yep. I agree.
Love it. Cool. Okay. Well, before we hop off, how can people, or what is the best way for people to continue to connect with you and learn from you? Where are we sending them?
Yeah. So in 2 places that you can definitely go to where I'm more located in is Instagram. So you can find me at the Alexandra Ramirez. Or you can also go to my YouTube channel. Just look up Alexandra Ramirez and you'll find me. And basically, we're on YouTube. I have a whole bunch of content that you can kind of go through. I don't hold secrets back on my YouTube channel or any of my content, at all whatsoever. So feel free to go through those videos. I'm trying to push out more here pretty soon. And that will give you a lot of information. And then I also gave Krissy access to, that you guys will probably have in like the show notes probably somewhere, where I do a monthly challenge. So it might be different from where you're listening for each one. Or I might have automated by this point. It doesn't matter. But anyways, you can definitely sign up to that. And we'll definitely go over on how to start scaling your online business.
Perfect. So the freedomadagency.com/scale. And that will get you to whatever current challenge you are offering.
Exactly.
Cool. I love it. Well, Alexandra, thank you so much for being here. It's been fun. I learned a few new things. I think our audience did too. So you guys, now it's time for you to go put the thinking cap on, do whatever you need to do to get in your creative space, go drive your car, go to bed early, lay in bed by yourself, take a shower, whatever your thing is to like get you in your creative space, go do that so that you can come up with the very, very best workshop or webinar that's going to draw in your ideal clients and lead them to that thing you want to send them to. Cool. All right, Alexandra, thank you so much, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got some value out of this episode, I would love some support. And the best way to do that, so I can keep showering you with loads of actionable tips, is to hit that subscribe button. Leave a review or a comment if you're on YouTube, and share this podcast with a friend. And when you share it with a friend on social, please tag me so I can reshare your share in my stories. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out. I appreciate the heck out of you for showing up. And now it's time for you to take imperfect action so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more.